Does gun control work, or are we looking at the wrong thing? This is Alan with Quarter Horse Arms, and in this podcast, I want to explore some interesting numbers I dredged up and wanting to kind of address the question of, well, does gun control really work on criminals? And, the answers are probably not surprising. But, everyone always has what I call a knee-jerk response. And I absolutely hate it. I hate it in my job. And I hate it everywhere else, like in government. All right, well, somebody used an AR or an AR pistol to shoot something up. Okay. Well, that makes ARs bad. I'm willing to bet that you could take a 30-round magazine for an AR, and I could take my .45 with its 13-round magazines. You could probably pull the trigger faster on the 30-round magazine, but I'm willing to bet I could get the weapon, meaning my pistol, reloaded and back in operation faster than the guy firing the AR could reload and slam the bolt home. But regardless of that, one of the debates I really want to avoid is, do guns kill people or do people kill people? And, we all know the answer. Stupid people claim that guns kill. And so that's where the gun control crowd is coming from, where most of us that are reasonable, rational human beings will tell you that the gun doesn't go off by itself. Somebody had to pull the trigger. And therefore, everyone else has to suffer the consequences. So, I pulled up some information. I don't remember how old it was, but it says something like 5% of the gun dealers are responsible for getting 90% of the guns out on the street, illegal guns. And, not being a math whiz, I, looked up the population of North Carolina and, the number of gun dealers in North Carolina. And based on their statistic, which was 0.4 gun dealers per 100,000 people are bad gun dealers. So, digging out a handy-dandy calculator, well, actually the one on my computer, and I found, roughly 10 million people in the state. That makes 40 of the 2,200 gun dealers in North Carolina bad gun dealers, or doing things they shouldn't be doing, like giving guns to people they should not. And, that works out to be 1.8% of the gun dealers. And I will argue with you, or not argue, and I'd say, 1.8% is 1.8% too much. I'd like to think that, everybody's following the law, but, realistically, we know there are people that don't. Okay, so the basic numbers are, every year, roughly 45,000 people are killed by guns in this country. There are 53,000 gun dealers, give or take, right about now. And so there's a lot of gun dealers out there, and they're in states that vary from, super restrictive gun laws to fairly permissive gun laws, meaning it's, relatively easy to get a gun. And so taking a look at the 50 states, 13 of them have the fewest gun restrictions, and 37 have much more significant gun restrictions. So the 13 states that have the fewest gun restrictions, 40% of the inmates, were nailed with illegal firearms. And where did they get them? Drug dealers, black market, friends, or whatever. Now, the other 37 states that had the most gun restrictions, 60% of the guns were illegal. And they were, again, from drug dealers, pawn shops, family members. No big surprise there. And so, yeah, we know that there are people that can get guns. And if you are a gun dealer, you may have had people attempt straw purchases. I've even had a sting operated against me, and since I'm still here, I clearly didn't do anything illegal. Okay, so let's continue with the illegal guns. A study in Pittsburgh from 900 guns that were collected from crimes. 80% of them were not legally owned. No, a criminal having an illegal gun. Shocking. Okay, another study, and this was even a smaller one, which was in Chicago. 97% of the guns recovered were illegal. Okay, so again, where did these particular inmates admit to getting the guns? Same thing: drug dealers, pawn shops, stolen from a friend, and so this kind of stuff is pretty evident. You don't hear about these things too often because it's inapropos. It's not stylish to talk about the fact that there is data that shows the guns being used were not gotten legally. So does that mean things like background checks don't work? Maybe. I mean, I think the estimate was like 91 or 93% of the background checks or blocks were successful at blocking people from getting guns. And since we're talking about banning guns and crap like that, will banning a particular type of weapon work? Absolutely not. Several studies, all in agreement with each other, which is, again, unusual. Limiting access to the guns has a greater impact than restricting the types of guns. So, again, very logical, saying, well, if you can make it tougher for criminals to get their hands on guns, it'll be tougher for them to use a gun in a crime. So it does work. Limiting access does work. And here, here's, and this was this month, January 2023. Very interesting piece of news. I love it when stupid people get elected. Well, that's a lot of elections, actually. Okay, Connecticut governor. He decided that he wants a law to limit handguns so you can only buy one a month to limit straw purchases. Okay. How are you going to regulate that? So, already no big deal. He wants to do away with open carry, which, until I read this thing, I didn't realize you could open carry in Connecticut. However, I'm all for that. I don't think anyone should know whether or not you've got a gun on you. Maybe they should find out the hard way if they draw a gun. And then he wants a ban on ghost guns. Pretty sure that the ATF, actually being a gun dealer, I'm damn sure that the ATF is now requiring serialization on all that stuff. But the Connecticut governor, and you can laugh all you want. I grew up in Connecticut, but he wants all of the people that own ghost guns to register them. Okay. Well, all I can think of is back to when they first put a bump stock ban in. I had up on my website that, if you want to turn it into me, I'll make sure it gets to the ATF. I didn't even have to worry about how much gas was in my car because nobody turned anything in. So if you own a ghost gun, meaning you built your own gun, and the law clearly states you don't have to register it, how are you going to get people to register it? Kind of a quandary. And then you kind of run into the whole other issue of, well, if guns are bad and we ban the guns, there won't be any more violence or gun violence. All right, well, if you actually believe that, I can probably interest you into buying some swampland somewhere. It's not the legal gun owners, meaning us, including me, that are causing crimes. I mean, to me, the biggest crime is the price of ammunition today. However, the criminals aren't going to play by the same rules as you and I do. And frankly, to deal with gun violence by going after the legal gun owners and, like the Connecticut governor coming up with stupid statements, isn't going to solve the problem. In fact, my personal opinion is it might make it worse. I don't know about where you live, but on the home invasions out in my neck of the woods, they're shooting people. Even if they got all the crap they wanted, they're still shooting the victims. Well, I'd like to think that if I had a gun, I might deter somebody from doing that. Maybe, and hopefully without having to shoot them. So, I get penalized because people, meaning this country and the elected officials, have proven themselves to be incapable of putting the people that are committing crimes behind bars and keeping them there. My final statistic, and I know I am preaching to the choir, although it would be cool to hear from some gun control activists to say, gee, Alan, you're full of crap. All right. The weird thing is, and this one, I don't even remember where I found it, but it was within the last week because it's got the same color pen as I've been using for the past week. Recidivism, meaning the chance of somebody going back to the same life of crime, is actually higher for gun offenders or people convicted for gun crimes than it is for sex offenders. Sex offenders have to register and put themselves on a list, and every time they move, they have to notify, and I think I actually got notified that there was a sex offender moving into my area at one point. But the people that committed crimes with guns aren't given the same level of scrutiny as the sex offenders. And they're both horrible, horrible classes of crimes. So why aren't we dealing with the gun violence criminals in a much more effective way? Okay, so much for preaching to the choir. So does restricting particular types of guns work? No, and it's stupid. Banning ARs that are responsible for committing less than 400 crimes a year is nothing. It's sensationalism. It's politics. This is why things are getting so messed up in this country. Meaning the elections all ran 50-50. People are tired of the same crap. Do something. Okay, I'm starting to pontificate. So, in the meantime, does banning the guns work? No.